What's up? It's time for another movie review. Last night I saw Star Trek, and holy crap is it awesome. This is the best movie I've seen probably since The Hobbit back in December. And I would even say I like it better than The Hobbit. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. I loved The Hobbit. I thought it was very true to the book. Loved that film, but I think this one is even better than that. So, like always, I'm going to do my spoiler-free review first, then I'll give you some warning, and then I'll talk about some specifics about the film so you can go see it and then come back and have a discussion. Anyway, so, the movie's, I think one of the most impressive things about the movie was its pacing. It was paced extremely well. There was not a single point in the movie where you're sitting there feeling like, man, this is really dragging, or man, this is going too fast. Maybe just a tiny bit at the very end when they wrapped it up. But other than that, it's like they have something interesting or exciting happening at every important, like, right at the right moment. Like, it doesn't come too early, it doesn't come too late, it always comes at exactly the right time. The pacing was just spectacular. I was really impressed with the pacing of the film. The performances were all really, really good. I really like this cast. I think that they do a great job at balancing, you know, what actors who played those characters in the past have done, and honoring and respecting, you know, the legacy of those characters, while also doing their own thing with it, you know, being creative and you know, putting their own spin on the characters. So you still have, it still feels like Star Trek basically, but it also feels like something unique and something new and fresh and exciting. And I think that's what's so great about these new Star Trek films. While in a lot of ways they're abandoning the canon, they're doing their own thing, it still feels like Star Trek, and that's really cool. Now, I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan in the world. I did grow up watching The Last Generation, and Deep Space Nine and Voyager. You know, my mom is a big Star Trek fan, and I watched the films growing up as well. So while I'm not like a huge, like, super Trekkie or anything like that, I am familiar with, you know, where it's come from and how it's evolved. And I feel they've done a great job at balancing, you know, the old with the new. And I think this is the best Star Trek film that's ever been made. I like it better than the one in 2009, the first one of this, you know, reboot. I love the villain in the film. I really, really love what they did with that character. It's not just your straightforward villain. There's a lot more complications, you know, behind what makes him tick, his motivations, why he wants to do the things he wants to do. And they kind of take you this direction with him, and they take you this direction with him. And I'm a huge proponent, I've said this in the past, that your hero is only as good as your villain. And Benedict Cumberbatch, the actor who plays the villain in this film, is spectacular. He is the best actor in Hollywood right now, in my opinion. He is phenomenal. If you've ever seen the BBC show Sherlock, he plays Sherlock Holmes in that show. And he's just phenomenal. His presence is unparalleled. Like, he steals the show. And when you got actors like Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, who are great actors and who have amazing presence, and you got Benedict Cumberbatch taking the spotlight away from those guys, that was another highlight of the film for me, was that the villain was the best character. A lot of times I was almost rooting for the villain, because the villain was so awesome. He was just so awesome. So I loved that. I loved the characterization in the movie, the way that they focused more on character this time around. At least in my opinion, it was that way. A lot of people who are fans of the older Star Trek complain that, I mean, even William Shatner has said that these new films don't have the heart that that the old ones had. And while I agree to an extent, I feel like this one does have a lot of heart. I feel like it has a lot of emotional moments, a lot of character moments, and I feel like the characters are really well developed in this movie, and building on what had come from the last one. I feel like Kirk comes a long way in his character especially, and Spock as well. They really grow in this movie. You see them change, and that's another really important thing to me in a film, is seeing the characters be a certain way at the beginning and watch how they change and become different and grow and learn by the end. And this movie does that. So it gets all of the important things right with character and story. It has incredible balance between its really serious moments and its funny moments. And unlike Iron Man 3, where it was really unbalanced, in favor of, the lighthearted kind of silly stuff, this movie took its serious moments really seriously. It made you feel it. The actors gave great performances, really made you believe that they felt something inside, other than just angst or, other than just, expressing sarcasm. But there was that too. They were able to take, the hardships that come and have a positive attitude about it and try to do the right thing and take action rather than, resorting to being mopey. And there's none of that, and that's really good. So I loved the characters. I think they did a great job with them. I think there's great character moments in the movie. I think it has a lot of heart. Maybe not as much as some of the older ones, but that's because the freaking action is so much better now. Like, it's unparalleled. You can't compare the action from this movie with the action from the old movies. It's just so much better now. And that was also really impressive. The CGI was unbelievable. Blew my mind. Like, I do special effects. Blew my mind. Couldn't even believe what I was seeing. So freaking awesome. J.J. Abrams is the best when it comes to that sort of stuff, visually. Let's see, what else? Anything else I could say before I get into the spoiler stuff? No, just go see the freaking movie. It's awesome. It's really awesome. I loved it. I totally recommend it. Go see it. Now, I'm going to talk about some spoiler stuff, so if you don't want to see spoilers, click away now. So, like I said, I've been not necessarily a fan, but I'm familiar with the Star Trek universe. I've been watching the films, my whole life. And as most people would agree, Wrath of Khan is my favorite and probably the best Star Trek film ever made, up until, these recent ones. I don't think there's any Star Trek film that has ever been able to, even come close to what Wrath of Khan, accomplished. And the one gripe I have with this film is that it starts to mess with that one a little bit. I feel like when you have something that is the pinnacle of your film franchise in Wrath of Khan, just leave it alone. Don't, I know that with these new Star Trek films, what they're doing is they're kind of creating a parallel universe to the older ones. Some things happen differently, and we're splitting off, and now it's not going to go exactly the same way. We're in a different universe. Different choices were made. I get that, but it's a little silly when you start to take almost the exact situation that happened in your previous Star Trek film from 1991 or 80 something or whenever it was that Wrath of Khan came out, probably in the 80s. You take a situation that was not only in the film that was the pinnacle of the franchise, but the pinnacle moment of that film, when Spock and Kirk have that last moment together before Spock dies. And then you just take that, like, that was a perfect moment in that film. It's extremely emotional, tons of heart. The actors were brilliant in their performances in that scene. That's like the pinnacle Star Trek moment. That's like the most awesome thing they did ever. And they took that and they reversed the roles. They put Kirk, you know, in dying and Spock outside the glass. I felt like you just can't mess with that scene. You just can't do that. Gosh, you can't do that. So that's the one gripe I had with the film. It wasn't like it was a bad scene, and for anyone who hasn't seen Wrath of Khan, you know, they wouldn't even know. But I just really felt like, and then they have Spock yell, Khan! And I was like, why? Why did you do that? Why did you take one of the most iconic moments in your franchise and not make a mockery of it, but just, you know, I don't know. It didn't feel right to me. I don't think they should have done that. I think they should have just left that alone. Okay, I had to restart my camera. It shut down. However, I loved what they did with the villain in the film, like I was saying. It is Khan. Now that we're in the spoiler part, I can say that Khan is the villain of the film. And I love the way they portrayed him as this, like, superhuman villain, and like totally on, and the power of his voice is just probably my favorite part about that character. Benedict Cumberbatch, what he did with the voice of that character is so menacing and so powerful. But they show him, like, just, there's this scene where they're on Kronos, the Klingon homeworld, and freaking Khan is just like kicking the fetch out of this whole platoon of Klingons. And you know, the Klingons themselves look really crazy. I remember in the trailer, they looked almost reptilian. I couldn't really tell what they were. They didn't show them clearly enough, but those are actually helmets and body armor and stuff for these Klingons. And one of the Klingon, I guess it would be like the captain, or at least the senior officer of this squad, takes off the mask and he looks so freaking crazy. It was awesome. But these huge Klingon warriors come out, and Khan just wipes them out. Just completely wipes them out. It's the coolest scene in the movie to me. But anyways, they make him out like this huge, menacing villain, and then they make you sympathize with him a little bit, and then they make you think, oh, you know, maybe he's not so bad, maybe he's in the right, you know, he's going about it the wrong way, but his intentions are pure. And then they reverse it on you again. I loved that about the villain, the way they took you in this direction, and then they 180, and then they 180 again. It was really cool. That alone kind of like made the film for me. The fact that I could really get behind that villain, that really helped me root for the hero characters, you know, our protagonists. And when you have a legitimate threat and a legitimate conflict, that, you know, it makes it so much easier to get behind it, and easier to forgive its faults. And like I was saying with that, you know, reversal of the scene from Wrath of Khan, and then, you know, Kirk, you think that he dies, but they kind of just, you know, they turn that around too, and make it, because at least in Wrath of Khan, you know, Spock actually did die. You know, he like basically shoots his body onto that Genesis planet and is reborn, but he did die. Like, and with this, I guess Kirk died, but they just came up with a solution to that so quickly that I don't think it had as much impact as it could have had they done something more like Wrath of Khan, where it was like, Spock is dead at the end of this movie. They shot his, you know, his body or his DNA or whatever, I can't remember, it's been a while since I've seen it, but onto that Genesis planet, hoping that, you know, maybe he'll, like a clone of him or another version of him would grow on that planet. But, I don't know, there wasn't that same kind of impact as with that, because the movie ended and Spock was dead, see, and then in the next movie they go try to find him again. In this one it's like, well, Kirk's dead for about 5-10 minutes, and then, you know, he's alive again. It doesn't have the same impact, and that bothered me a little bit. But other than that, holy crap, this movie is awesome. Please go see it as soon as you can. It's the best movie I've seen in a long time. So, thanks for watching. Peace.